All right, habit enthusiasts, welcome back to Chapters Unfolded for another deep dive into atomic habits. And this time we're tackling Chapter 11.
Ooh, chapter 11.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
And this one, I got to say, the title kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Walk Slowly, but Never Backward.
That's a little ominous.
Right,
Yeah.
it is. Like, are we going to make it out of these woods alive?
But where are you going in this chapter? I don't know.
I know, like, what's the deal? But anyway, James Clear wastes no time getting into the good stuff, and he throws this, like, wild story at us right off the bat about a photography professor.
Oh, I love this story.
So good, right?
Yeah.
So imagine this. You're a student in Professor Jerry Olsman's class at the University of Florida.
Okay.
And it's day one of the class, and he divides the class in two.
Okay.
There's the quantity group,
All right.
and there's the quality group.
Interesting.
Wow.
So he's setting up an experiment already, I feel
Well,
like.
yeah, like total experiment mode.
Classic.
So now I got to ask you, like, if you were in that class,
Mm,
which group would you want to be in?
that's a tough one.
Right.
Because, I mean, quality over quantity, right?
That we're always told.
That's what we're taught.
Yeah,
I mean, if I could produce just one really amazing photo,
right, like a masterpiece.
a masterpiece, yeah, I think I'd go for that.
Yeah, you think so?
But part of me also is like, I need to experiment to get to that good stuff.
Yeah, right. You need those reps in, right?
You need the reps.
The practice.
Maybe the quantity group is onto something.
Okay, so everyone listening, think about this for a second.
Yeah, think about it.
If you were in this class, quantity or quality,
What would you choose?
let us know in the comments because I'm super curious
I am too.
what you guys would pick. All right, so back to the story.
Yes.
So the quantity group, their entire grade is based on how many photos they take.
Okay, just the sheer number.
Just crank them out.
Got it.
The quality group, they're only graded on one photo. One photo for the entire semester.
Wow, the pressure.
Right.
That's a lot of pressure.
But it has to be, like, amazing.
It's got to be perfect.
It's got to be perfect.
Right.
Okay, so
Okay, so what happened?
what happened?
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay, so are you ready for this?
I think so.
The quantity group.
Yeah.
They ended up taking the best photos.
What?
Aye.
That's crazy.
Total plot twist.
That is a plot twist.
Right, so what's going on here? What is James Clear trying to tell us?
He's messing with us a little bit, I
Oh,
think.
okay,
I
right.
think he's trying to challenge our assumptions about what it takes to be good at something.
Yeah.
Right? Like you always think, oh, you got to be so focused. You got to be so careful. You got to just hone in on that one thing.
Right, perfect it.
Yeah. But what this story shows is that sometimes the best way to get good at something is just to do a lot of it.
Like, just get in there and do it.
Exactly. Experiment, make mistakes, learn from them, and keep going.
I love that. So it's like practice makes perfect, or maybe practice makes better.
Right. Yeah, maybe perfect isn't really the goal.
Maybe not.
Maybe it's just about constantly improving.
Yeah, just getting better all the time.
Yeah, and this is where Clear introduces these two concepts that I think are so important: motion versus action.
Okay, motion versus action.
Yeah. Have you ever felt like you were working really hard but not actually getting anywhere?
Yeah, all the time.
I think we all have.
Like spinning my wheels.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that's what Clear calls being in motion.
Okay, so motion is like the fake.
It's like the busy work.
the busy work, yeah.
Yeah.
But not actually productive.
Right. It's like all the planning and the researching and the strategizing, but not the actual doing.
So, like, give me an example. I need, like, a real-world example.
Okay, so let's say you're trying to write an article.
Okay.
You spend hours researching every possible angle. You read tons of articles on the topic. You create this elaborate outline, but you never actually sit down to write.
Oof, I felt that one.
That's motion.
That's me.
You're busy, but you're not making progress on the actual article.
Yeah, that's so true.
Or another example, let's say you want to eat healthier.
Okay.
So you spend all this time reading about different diets, looking up recipes, but you never actually cook anything.
Oh, my gosh, this is too real.
Right. That's motion again.
Yeah.
You're gathering information, but you're not actually changing your eating habits.
Okay, so how do we break free from the motion trap?
That's where action comes in.
All right, bring on the action.
Action is the behavior that actually gets you the results you want.
Okay.
It's the writing, the eating, the doing.
So in the article, example action would be like sitting down and just writing the darn thing.
Yeah, even if it's a crappy first draft.
Yeah, just get it out there.
Exactly. And in the healthy eating example, action would be like actually choosing a healthy meal and cooking it.
Okay. I'm starting to see the difference.
So it's not about thinking about doing, it's about actually doing it.
All right, so how does this all tie back to the photography students? Like, were they just in action mode more often?
I think that's a big part of it, but there's another piece of the puzzle that's even more fascinating, and that's where the power of repetition comes in.
Oh, I love a good cliffhanger.
But before we get into that, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt stuck in motion? What's one area of your life where you're all planning and no doing? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, we want to hear your stories.
We're all in this together.
All right, we'll be back in a flash with more Atomic Habits awesomeness. So don't go anywhere.
It sounds like a lot of us have been there stuck in that motion loop, but hey, at least we're not alone, right?
Right. Misery loves company.
Exactly. But I think the photography experiment you were talking about really highlights something important.
What's that?
Sometimes the best way to learn and improve is to just dive in and start doing, even if it's not perfect at first.
Okay, so back to those photography students.
Yeah. What do you think was going on there with all that repetition? Was it just a matter of doing more, even if it wasn't perfect?
Well, you mentioned the power of repetition earlier.
I did.
How does that fit into all of this?
Think of it this way. Every time those students snapped a photo, they weren't just creating an image. They were actually engaging in a process of learning and refinement.
Oh,
Each click of the shutter was like a mini experiment?
I like that.
Yeah, a chance to try something new, to observe the results, to make adjustments for the next shot.
It's like they were getting instant feedback with every photo.
Exactly. And here's the really cool part. They were actually rewiring their brains with every photo they took.
Whoa, 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 hold on. Rewiring their brains.
Yeah.
Like physically changing their brain structure.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's kind of blowing my mind right now.
I know, right? It's like the more we do something, the more we carve out a path in our brains, making it easier and easier to do it again.
Okay, so you're saying our brains physically change when we repeat behaviors.
Totally. Clear talks about this whole concept of neuroplasticity, which is like the brain's ability to rewire itself based on our experiences.
Neuroplasticity, I love that word. It sounds so futuristic.
Right. And it's happening all the time. Like every time we learn something new or practice a skill, we're literally reshaping our brains.
Okay, so what's going on at the cellular level when we repeat an action? How does that translate to habit formation?
Imagine you're hiking through a forest.
Okay.
The first time you walk a particular path, it's probably pretty overgrown, right?
Yeah, you might have to like hack your way through.
Exactly. Lots of obstacles, thorns, branches, you name it.
Sounds like my to-do list.
Huh, maybe. But here's the thing. The more you walk that path, the clearer it becomes.
Okay.
You trample down the underbrush, you wear away those obstacles.
So eventually it's like a nice clear path.
Yeah, it becomes a well-worn path, the easiest route to take.
Okay, I get the analogy, but what does that have to do with our brains?
Well, it's the same principle with our neural pathways.
Oh, interesting.
Each time we repeat a behavior, we're essentially walking that same path in our brains, making it smoother and more efficient.
So it's like our brains are constantly adapting, creating shortcuts for the things we do repeatedly.
That's a great way to put it, and that's why habits can be so hard to break.
Yeah.
You know?
They're like literally etched into our neural circuitry.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of automaticity comes in.
Automaticity.
Yeah, it's basically the point where a behavior becomes so ingrained that we do it without even thinking about it.
So it's like second nature.
Totally. Like, think about driving a car.
Okay.
You don't consciously think about every little step, do you?
Not really, no. It's kind of like autopilot.
Exactly. You don't have to think, okay, press the gas pedal, now check the mirror, now turn the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of happens automatically.
And that's what we want with good habits, right?
Yep. To make those desired behaviors so automatic that they become our default mode.
But how do we get to that point? Is it just a matter of time? Like, how many times do we have to repeat something before it becomes a habit? Isn't there that saying about 21 days?
Ah, the 21-day myth?
Yeah, is that a myth?
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, how long does it actually take?
Well, it's not really about time. It's more about what Clear calls crossing the habit line.
The habit line.
Yeah, and it's different for everyone. And for every habit, it's not a magic number of repetitions. It's more about reaching a point where the behavior feels effortless and natural for you.
So it's not about counting the days on the calendar. It's about getting enough reps to make that behavior feel automatic.
That's it. And there are some signs that you've crossed the habit line.
Oh, like what?
Well, for one, you no longer have to force yourself to do it.
Okay.
It feels like it's just part of your routine.
Yeah, like brushing your teeth.
Exactly. And you might even start to crave the feeling of doing it. You actually look forward to it.
So it's like with those photography students, At first, they probably didn't love developing all that film in the darkroom,
Right. Who would?
but eventually it became part of their routine, something they didn't have to think about so much.
Exactly. And all that repetition led to a deeper understanding of the craft, which probably made them even more passionate about it.
So they crossed the habit line and actually started to enjoy the process.
That's the idea, and that's what we want to aim for with any habit we're trying to build.
This is all making me think about my own habits. Some of the things I do regularly, like making coffee in the morning,
Yeah,
I don't even think about them anymore. They're just automatic.
that's the power of habit.
It's kind of freaky when you think about it.
It is, but it's also pretty cool when you realize that we can use this power to our advantage.
I mean, this is great news for building good habits, but what about bad habits?
That's the catch. This same power of repetition can work against us too.
Oh, no.
Yeah, think about those things you do automatically, even though you know they're not good for you. Those are habits too.
Like eating junk food when I'm stressed.
Exactly. And those habits are carved into your brain just as deeply as the good ones.
Oh, man, that's a little scary.
It can be, but the good news is we can use this knowledge to our advantage.
So how do we do that?
Well, it all comes down to making the good habits easier and the bad habits harder.
Okay, so it's like a mental game of strategy.
Exactly. And that's what Clear calls the third law of behavior change: make it easy.
Make it easy.
Yeah. The easier a behavior is to do, the more likely you are to actually do it, and the more likely it is to become a habit.
That makes sense.
And that's what we're going to be exploring in more detail in the upcoming chapters.
I can't wait.
Me too. We're going to be diving deep into Claire's 4 laws of behavior change and how we can use them to create lasting change in our lives.
This is getting good.
It is, and I think it's a good place to pause for now.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the power of quantity to the science of repetition and the habit line.
And we've got even more to uncover next time.
I'm excited.
Me too. But before we wrap up, I want to challenge you all to think about one habit you've been wanting to build
Okay.
and ask yourself, what's one small step you can take today to make that habit easier to reduce the friction?
That's a great challenge.
Let us know what you're going to do in the comments below.
Yeah, we want to hear your commitment.
And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Chapters Unfolded for more deep dives into the world of books and self-improvement.
Until next time, happy habit building. All right, so let's take a minute to process everything we've learned in this chapter of Atomic Habits.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It is, right? It's like this dense little forest of wisdom.
And I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But even just scratching the surface has been so insightful.
Totally. And for me, one of the biggest takeaways is that whole idea of motion versus action.
Yeah, that was huge for me too.
It's so easy to get caught up in the planning and the prepping and all the things that make us feel busy but don't actually move us forward.
Right, it's like we're spinning our wheels but going nowhere.
Exactly. And I think this chapter really helped me see that the key is to focus on taking action, even if it's imperfect action.
Yeah, like just get in there and do the thing.
Exactly. And the more we do it, the easier it becomes.
That's where that whole repetition thing comes in, right?
Yep. And that's where things get really interesting, because we're not just talking about getting better at something through practice. We're talking about literally changing our brains.
I know, it's mind-blowing, right?
Totally. Like our brains are constantly adapting and rewiring themselves based on what we do repeatedly.
So basically, we're in control of shaping our own brains.
In a way. Yeah. And that's both exciting and a little scary.
Yeah, because it means we have the power to create good habits, but also bad ones.
Exactly. So we got to be mindful of what we're repeating.
For sure. But I think the good news is that once we understand how habits work, we can use that knowledge to our advantage.
Totally. We can create systems and environments that make it easier to do the things we want to do.
And harder to do the things we don't want to do.
Right. It's all about setting ourselves up for success.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into walk slowly but never backward, what's one final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I think the title of the chapter itself is a pretty powerful message, you know?
Yeah, it is.
It's a reminder that progress isn't always linear. There will be setbacks. There will be times when we feel like we're moving backward.
But the important thing is to never give up.
Exactly. Keep walking. Keep moving forward, even if it's slowly, and eventually you'll get where you want to be.
Love it. So to all our habit enthusiasts out there, keep walking slowly but never backward.
And remember, small changes can lead to remarkable results.
That's it for this episode of Chapters Unfolded. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Atomic Habits.
And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful book discussions.
Until next time, happy reading.